Hello, I'm attorney Tammy Saltzman, and you are watching Divorce Connection Network. Today, I am so pleased to introduce you to Diane Abdo. Hi, Diane. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. Thanks for coming and joining us. Our audience is anxious to hear all about your topic. We have a great topic today. Diane is a licensed clinical psychologist. She's been practicing in Boca Raton for almost 30 years now. She has individual and group therapy practice in addition to specific workshops that she offers throughout the year dealing with different topics. The topic we're going to be talking about today is anger. And anger is something that we experience in our marriages, but it's something that we often experience once the marriage has split. So I find a lot of men and women are extremely angry at their spouses. They feel violated, they feel abandoned, especially if one person walks out on the other and the other one is shocked. I find anger to be extreme. The most extreme cases of anger are when a spouse cheats on another spouse. And so dealing with that anger is so difficult, and it sometimes grabs us. You know, instead of us having anger, anger has us, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And so what tips would you offer the audience on how to deal with that anger when it gets us?
I think it's impossible to experience betrayal and not a natural reaction to that is anger. How we deal with the anger usually is very individual, but it's essential to know that you have to own your feeling, you have to understand where it comes from. It's impossible to just swallow it without it showing up in some other way in your life. Anger is really just our psyche's warning signal that we're either feeling vulnerable or violated. And it's best to learn how to recognize that warning and deal with the emotion that we're having separately from the situation, so that anger doesn't guide our actions and influence not just our children but other people in our lives in a negative way. We don't win with anger. We don't overcome anyone else's issues or any wrongdoing with anger. Anger is simply an opportunity to understand what means what to us, deal with that separately, but deal with the situation at hand from a rational, calm place. If we're anger is such an intense emotion that if we try to respond to a situation when we're in the midst of all that emotional turmoil, we won't be rational. We won't be able to represent ourselves appropriately or fight for the best in the situation. We'll be just reactive.
You know, it's great advice, and it's great advice in lots of ways, you know. So one thing I want to point out to the audience is it's okay to be angry. Own it, okay? That's what she said, own your feelings. If you're going to be angry, and give yourself permission to be angry. Just don't try to resolve any issue or communicate with your spouse while you're in the extreme anger. Calm down. And then once you're calmer, you're going to be able to communicate much better.
Yes.
Sometimes you need to get angry in order to throw your spouse out. You've had enough. And so anger can be used as a tool to get us to the next step. So it's important that you understand that we're not saying don't be angry.
Absolutely.
Anger is one of the stages.
And it's a necessary emotion to tell us what means what to us. The idea is to understand that we have the anger, recognize that we're feeling it, and there are steps to understanding what you're feeling, and handle it responsibly. We don't want our behavior to send messages to anybody, especially our children, that anger is an effective or appropriate way to engage with somebody else or to try to overpower them. Anger is simply for us to understand. Separately, we have to deal with whatever caused the anger. But in the immediate situation, anger shouldn't be the thing that guides you. Anger is just our signal, okay, I have something I have to look at, some feeling that has been, either I've been betrayed or I feel misunderstood or I'm being misrepresented, whatever it is. But the point is, own it, understand you have it, definitely deal with it, just not in the moment. You don't want to handle a sensitive situation in the moment. We've all had situations where We're angry, it gets the better of us, especially for those of us who don't necessarily tolerate the feeling well. So there are lots of ways that anger might come out, might be expressed inappropriately. And the people around us, or especially our kids who are going to witness how we handle something, assume that that means that's the right way. And if we're so emotional that we misrepresent the situation, or we don't handle our feeling appropriately, we start a whole avalanche of reactions, not just in ourselves, but in the people that we're trying to raise and help them understand how to be effective people in life.
One of the most important things that I'm hearing for advice I give my clients all the time is never, ever, ever put your anger in writing and email it to someone. Okay, that does not go away, and everyone reads it. Okay, so you may be sending it just to your spouse, and your spouse is showing friends, children, in-laws, family, therapists, lawyers, judges, your anger. And putting angry words, it's okay to write out angry words.
Just don't send it.
Don't send it. Give it to your girlfriend to read. Give it to your mom to read. Don't send it to your spouse. Wait until you calm down. Sleep on it. Go back to your email and read it again tomorrow and make sure that it's worded. Let someone else read it, especially your therapist. Let your licensed clinical psychologist help you with all of that, making sure that you communicate in a way that when you're angry, it just shuts the other person down.
Absolutely. It takes away safety. And if you don't feel safe, or the other person doesn't feel safe, in whatever way, there's no possible positive resolution that's going to come from that. So if there's not respect in the situation, which can't coexist with anger, if it's verbalized inappropriately. If there's no respect, there's no resolution.
What can someone do to overcome this anger?
There are some steps. There's a lot out there, research, and much in practice about the mind-body connection. And I think the main pathway to resolving anger, or to dealing with anger in the moment, is to realize that you can have absolute control over one thing, and that is your thoughts. And your thoughts influence, there's a lot written about how the process of how a thought determines a physiological reaction and an emotional feeling. And so if we control our thoughts and keep our thoughts in a positive, productive direction, then our physiological reactions will be easier to manage and control. We'll be calmer, we'll be able to separate from the immediate feelings so that you can process differently, think more clearly, and then respond from a more solid place. So in part it's about thought control. It's also about, I believe that compassion just melts anger. And if we can have the perspective to step back and try to understand the other person's perspective, even if we completely don't agree with it, if we can just shift perspectives and understand many angles of a situation, the anger leaves, and what's left in place is better understanding. And from that calmer place, more compassionate place, we can think more clearly. It's
That's
very important.
Very good. Sometimes I tell my clients to take a bat and beat up pillows, get their anger out, really get it out till you're exhausted, out of your body, so that you can take a deep breath.
Yes, and that deep breath, even if we don't necessarily first release the anger physically, that deep breath interrupts the physiological chemistry of anger. And so that deep breath gives you a moment to create calm. There are systems for what type of breathing and how to go about using that in the moment to create mental calm that goes with the physical calm.
Last night I was with a friend, and her husband had an affair, and I was trying to have her detach from it personally. Mm-hmm. Like she took it personally. Mm-hmm. I said, can't you forgive him? Can't you forgive his indiscretion? Not that she'd take him back, but can't you see that it has nothing really to do with you? It was his choice. Mm-hmm. And I told her to make a list of everything she was grateful for.
That's a wonderful thing, because it does the same thing. It gives you a shift of perspective that allows you to experience other feelings, calmer feelings, more loving feelings. And it also puts you in a place where you can control. That's what thought control is really about. Taking different perspectives that are more soothing, more loving, more understanding. And the more we focus our thoughts in a positive direction, which is what gratitude is, we can not just avoid anger, get around anger. We can more productively make decisions about how to handle what steps to take next.
Well, we're running out of time, and I'm so disappointed because there's so much we can talk about. Anger is such a great topic. Your anger, by the way, spills over to your children.
Oh, yes.
And when you're angry, they're angry, and if you're really angry, they're going to defend you because you're their mom or their dad. So keep that in mind. The moment you forgive your spouse, your children will forgive your spouse. And that's when the healing will begin, right?
Yes.
And we're all about healing.
Absolutely.
I'm about healing in my law practice, and I know you're about healing in yours. You can reach Diane through our website at divorceconnectionnetwork.com. Thank you so much for joining us today.
What a pleasure. Thank you so much.
And please join us again for the next episode of Divorce Connection Network. Bye for now.